exhaust off. Take a peek at what we got going on. Well, looks like a brand new piston in there, a brand new jug. Grab a light. So the guy said this thing didn't run. It's a ms250c. The recoil's broke. The top E-clip is busted off. So these recoils are expensive. So he said the recoil is broke and it was blown up. Said I could have it for parts. I'm tearing it apart, but you can see that it's got new RTV on it. I didn't really have, I mean, I could have put a drill on the flywheel, I guess. There's a little bit of scoring on the piston, but it's not bad. Huh. That's just a witness mark. That's not even scoring. I don't know. I guess we'll keep tearing it apart and see what the guy thought he had wrong with it. It's got an actual sprocket on it, which is nice. It's rocking a 3/8 Pico, which I love to see. Pull your E-clip off. Washer. Running a 7-pin. Steel. Pretty standard. It looks like new too. Brake works. Even the bearing looks really good. Not sure the story on this saw. Steel drum. Oh, just dropped it. Always like to look at your plugs. See what we got for color. Nice gray. Made a little gray. It's not white, so I would not call that a lean plug. Top of the piston looks really good. No holes in it. I'm not sure on this saw what's going on. We'll keep tearing it apart. Since the piston does look new, I'm gonna grab a piston stop. A lot of guys will take a rope, put a rope inside there. So what a piston stop does, when you go to remove the clutch, you don't break anything when you're zipping it off there. So some guys will stuff a rope down in here. You can pick up these piston stops for next to nothing. Stick it down in the hole. You're gonna run it till it stops. Right there. And then the clutch is righty-loosey. You just hit them fast. Steel clutch, So far, it's all OEM stuff. No broken springs. No real big heat marks. So that's good. Brakes working. Your inner washer is labeled top, so can't mess those up. Here's your oil pump drive. Right there. I'm gonna make sure the end's not burned off. And a lot of guys mess this up when they're replacing their drums. There's a notch right there, and that drive sits on that shaft, and that little tab sits right there. That's what turns your oil pump. So if you drop this in here without catching it in that groove, you'll burn that end off, then it won't oil. So if you've recently replaced your drum or had this apart, now it's not oiling, good chance you missed it. Now it's not turning your oil pump. There's your oil pump right there. ms250. This is ms250c, so it's the easy start version. It does have a different flywheel and coil. They say you can't replace the flywheel with a standard 250. You can, but it throws the timing off a little bit. And what I've seen happen is you'll throw a regular ms250 flywheel on these 250Cs. Every now and then when you go to start it, it'll almost backfire, more or less, and it'll break the recoil. I'd say 1 out of every 10 uses. But the eBay recoils for a standard ms250 is a lot cheaper than the C. This guy, OEM, is like 170 bucks. I don't know, eBay is like 20 bucks. So you do the math on that, figure out what's cheaper. Yeah, I don't know why this thing's here. Just keep tearing it apart and see, I guess. What does that say? Where's that 16-pound monster you had? You're talking about my home light? My buddy saw this, the 775G. That thing doesn't need any work. It's ready to go. So this saw was given to me because they said it didn't run, because the recoil was broke and they said it was blown up. But so far all I'm finding is the recoil was broke. But it's good to have parts. So far this saw's turning out to be almost like new, so I'm feeling a little guilty here, but it is what it is. On these, a lot of guys will break this little tab off. I mean, you gotta be aggressive and fast with it, and you'll be fine. No, I didn't put any gas in it. The recoil was broke. It's an easy start, so I don't have a spare one here. It's the kind where you pull it a couple times and it cranks itself. Whoever had it broke the top off. So, and the internal spring is broke, I'm pretty sure. I think the internal spring broke. They tried to fix it. They broke the top. And that shaft is part of this housing. So there's real no good way of repairing that. You need to replace the recoil assembly. But when he told me it was blown up, I just kind of automatically went to tearing it apart. But it looks like it's got a new top end on it, or a new engine, because he's come with the whole assembly. I'm gonna guess it's China. So I won't feel bad if it's not a steel. If it's a steel one, I might put this back together, but I don't think it is. This will tell me a lot what kind of carburetor it's got. It's a steel carburetor. Oh, OEM carburetor too. The mystery saw. Why did somebody throw this away? Because now we're in the is it really blown up phase of this. I could put a drill on the flywheel and crank it over, but we're already invested in tearing it apart, so let's keep going. Spring it flying. There it is. Yeah, the Chinese carburetors are awesome. So if you can find a OEM stihl, you hang on to it. They got rebuild kits for these. They're just better saws or better carburetors. But if you start playing with porting stuff, definitely get a Chinese one to practice on. If you're going to start porting the exhaust or the intake, dimpling the intake side, yeah, definitely go with the eBay Chinese ones for your tests. That's what I did before I got confident enough to do it on an OEM. And even then I feel bad doing it on an OEM. I usually just do it on the Chinese ones. I've had some pretty good results. I mean, I'm not using them every day, but it's kind of neat to have a 250 that pulls pretty hard. Port the exhaust out, and people think you got a race saw. See, when I'm working on these saws, especially when somebody else has been inside it, you look for witness marks. So witness marks is scratches, nicks, tears. If somebody's put, that's new engine, but whoever did it did a good job. They didn't really gall anything up, or, I mean, a lot of people forget to put these little Teflon wear pads in it. That was in it. There it is. Thanks, Jack. How many people are watching? 82? Right on, man. Chainsaw stuff. It's about the most irritating, fun hobby you can have in the garage. It doesn't take up a lot of room. Parts are readily available everywhere. And it's pretty cool when you get something actually running. Let's see if this is a steel handle. I mean, Stihl is so proud of their stuff. They stamp everything. And this might be an aftermarket handle. Which is fine. Nope. By golly, it's a Stihl handle too. I'll be shocked if that's just the original jug and it's that clean. bushing. Yeah, there. So guys are saying here, tweaking. I suppose. I'm not sure what that means though. So there it goes. There's that bushing on top right by the brake handle. It kind of be a pain. All right, let's hold this up here. It's the boot, intake boot. It's cold in the shop, so it's not very pliable. There we go. Steel top cover. It's got a little crack right there. Someone must have dropped it on the back of a truck, or they were cutting down a tree and got scared and dropped their saw. A little bit of crunch on the back. But I've seen way worse. It's got the irritating plastic heat divider. These always break. You gotta pop them off. It's actually what's swedging it onto the cylinder. So instead of a clamp, they use this piece of plastic, and it's a booger to get off. Flywheel ground, or your coil ground. Right there, I'll pull that off too. I don't know if that's a steel coil though. I'm not sure if steel stamps are coils or not. To be honest with you, guess I really never paid attention. Let me grab another coil from my steel box. They might not. Might be an eBay coil, might be a OEM, I'm not sure. There it is. So yeah, this piece of plastic, I've seen a lot of guys rebuild saws and they don't put this back on. That's what's actually capturing the intake on the engine. So you can do that, but you gotta put a clamp on here. I've done that. If this has been broke, or it's kicking your butt, or it's primarily just a winter saw, you're not gonna run it in the heat. In the summer, you can put a clamp on there. It'll be just fine. And it makes assembly a lot easier. There's the boot. Here's kind of a cool fact for chainsaw folks. If you look inside your intake, it's dimpled. So what that's doing is it's grabbing the fuel and it's dispersing it. Instead of fuel just running straight into the throat of the engine, just falling straight down from the carburetor to the intake, it catches these little knurls. The concept is to break up the gas so it evenly distributes it. I believe there's truth to that, because I've ported them where you go and you take a little Dremel and you just start making little nubs all the way around there to really intensify the spray pattern, if you want to call it that, going into there. And they seem to run a little smoother. But yeah, this piston does not look tore up at all. It looks really good. So, we'll keep tearing it apart and see if we can find anything really broke, minus the recoil. Here's your brake assembly. You can pop off the big spring. And then the actual brake itself, you can pull out as one unit. There is one little E-clip on this pivot joint right here. So we can pull this off together. Nope, I failed. It's coming apart. That's okay. I know it goes back together. There's all that. Slides into your brake handle. That's Stihl. Stihl is damn proud of their stuff. Well, we just about got a saw tore apart, don't we? Pull that flywheel off. So there's a lot of disagreements on how to take these flywheels off. There is no, I mean, there really is no puller for these. I mean, maybe Stihl has one, but I've never really seen it. So what I've always found works really good is a thicker screwdriver right on the backside against the case. You just give it a couple taps. It usually pops it off. If you don't drop it on the ground, it's a Stihl flywheel. It doesn't mar anything. And I got a little bit of the fin there, but so we don't want to do that. But it's part saw now. Boy, even these look like new. And those do not come with a Chinese rebuild kit, I'll tell you that. Huh. Take the jug bolts out, 4 of them. Where'd my screwdriver go? There it is. All right, here's the big reveal. See what kind of motor we got. Oh, crap. So the bottom end is Stihl. I don't know if somebody top-ended it. So they put a top end on it. I don't recall if Stihl stamps the pistons or not. If anybody knows, let me know. I don't remember. I don't know if Stihl's that proud they put a stamp on their pistons or their tops. They definitely got a bottom end Stihl. off the top of my head. We'll keep tearing this apart. I'll get back to that. All I really want left after on this is that oil pump. Do a quick inspect of the case. I will have myself a bunch of ms250 parts. So we're going after this oil pump. There's a retaining screw. I believe this just pops out of there. Yeah. Be careful not to break the nipple. It's the pickup from the tank. I don't know if it comes at the bottom or the top. It's got to come out the bottom, I believe. Yep. So that comes out the bottom. Grab a hold of that pump. There is your oil pump. Maybe was curious. Well, the guy's grabbing right there. Well, so the saw was given to me because it had a broken recoil. It's an ms250c, so it's the easy start. And the spring's broke on the inside, and whoever was working on it broke the top shaft, which is part of the whole housing. To buy an OEM steel is about $160, but he also told me it was blown up. So I just automatically went to tearing it apart, but the more I tore it apart, the more I found that it's a very good condition saw. And I noticed that looks new. Looking through the exhaust, the piston looked fine. I mean, if I could rewind time, I would put a drill on the flywheel, shot it with some ether and see if it fired, but I took the guy's word for it and just started tearing it apart. Well, I'm wishing I wouldn't have, but the handle's got a little crack in it on the bottom, but the case looks great. Fuel tank's bone dry. There's not much left I want off this thing. I guess the dogs can go with the case. I'll end up building something back. I kind of want to crack this engine open quick and see what we got for a piston, or try to see why they thought it was blown up. Hard to see. I pulled it out like that. Arrow always goes to the exhaust, so that was correct. There's no run time on this piston. The pins, they're set correct. Let's check the gap real quick. Yeah. Huh. I don't know what this is right here. That might be a crack in the skirt. Right here. I believe it is. But that wouldn't make it blown up. This is off a chainsaw. ms250c steel chainsaw. The guy said it was blown up and the recoil was broke, so I started tearing it apart. And the more I tore it apart, the nicer it looked. But inspecting the brand new piston that's in it, it does have, you guys probably can't see it, but there is a crack right here on the skirt. Weird. And there's a gouge right there. You can kind of see it in the light. It's, I don't want to call that washed. There's something right here, and there's a crack right here. I don't know. All I know is I got a bunch of parts now. No, the piston clips are right there. They're both set where they're supposed to be. We'll pull that piston off though, good call. Check the play. Oh, that's tight. The crank bearing's tight. I see a lot of these steels with discoloration. That's common. That's a normal look. But yeah, something cracked that skirt. Right there. These little clips can be a booger. Oh, there it is. Most time you get them out and you break them. I got lucky on that one. I got a whole drawer full of them, so I'm not really worried about losing them. Pull that wrist pin out. Maybe. I love my surgeon scissors. It's just really oily. Wrist pin looks good. Grab a cleaner rag. I'm not seeing steel stamped on this thing. I'm thinking this is a China piston. But yeah, piston, E-clip. The arrow was pointed towards the exhaust, so that was correct. There's almost no signs of any fire on top of that thing. So if they did run it, it wasn't very long. I don't know if they heard a noise with that skirt being cracked right there. or not, but it's cracked. It cracked the bottom of the skirt, and it wiped that edge right there. Kind of strange. So maybe when they were installing the piston, it's supposed to squeeze down inside here to compress your rings. Maybe they had it get bound up and they got mad and they smacked it. It's hard to say. It's the first one for me. I'm gonna actually hang that one off to the side and ask some people smarter than me on these chainsaws. But yeah, good crank. Good little bottom end. I'm not gonna keep the jug. I don't trust it. I'll discard that now. So there you go. I guess a quick how-to disassemble a ms250c pretty gently for all your part features you need. There's a completely dismantled saw. I don't know. That piston doesn't show they ran it without oil. If they run it without oil, that would be, it'd have a lot of scoring and witness marks down the piston and the walls. So it's a first one for me. I'm not sure. Broken skirt, just on that one edge right there. You guys probably can't see it, but there is a crack. There's a crack on the outside and it runs up this side. So I'm guessing what they did is they fired it. Boy, can't even tell it's been fired, but maybe they pulled it over and heard a noise and they kept pulling it over because they did break the recoil and the shaft on the recoil broke, which is part of the whole assembly. I don't know. Hard to say, but I appreciate you guys watching. This live stream thing is new to me, and the comments are pretty cool. So, chainsaws is a hobby of mine, so if I can teach you guys something cool, if I can entertain you, that's even better. But other than that, I'm out. Everybody have a good one.